Everybody, welcome to Small Town Hauntings.
Hi.
My name is Bella, and I am your host today. And this is my cousin Nancy.
Yes,
She's
co-host.
my co-host. She's the co-host. So today's we're going to be talking about the ghost of the Underground Railroad in Amherstburg's Sacred Crossing. So we're going to get right into that.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. It's one of the powerful chapters in Canadian history. It's the Amherstburg's role in the Underground Railroad and the energy that still pulses in the place where freedom was won. Between the early 1800s and 1865, thousands of enslaved black men, women, and children made the dangerous journey north, thinking freedom in Canada. Amherstburg, sitting right between, Amherstburg, sitting right across the river from Detroit, became one of the most critical final spots. And many of them crossed the Detroit River by boat, sometimes at night, often in silence, always in fear, of course.
Well, yeah.
Some of them made it, some of them didn't, and the land remembers. Places like the, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Nazarene African Methodist Episcopal Church. Now part of the Amherstburg Freedom Museum and Fort Malden became silent witnesses. They hold energy, not of terror, but of strength, determination, and a deep cry of liberation.
Well, let's start with the good. Not every haunting is scary. Some are soul-affirming, and this one, it gives you chills in the best way. Visitors to the Freedom Museum have reported feeling a wave of peace and a sudden warmth in the sanctuary of the Nazarene Church. It's described as a quiet knowing, like being wrapped in a spiritual hug. And here's actually a true encounter by somebody local, a visitor. They said, as I stepped into the chapel, I felt overwhelmed with emotion. I don't know why, but I cried, not from sadness, but from something ancient. I felt surrounded. That presence isn't trapped; it's intentional. These are spirits who they were part of something bigger, and they're all still standing watch. That's impactful.
That is impactful.
Yeah.
Being able to, I guess, and if
that relief
you will feel that overwhelming emotion, which something like that would.
Well, think of what you escaped and what you actually went through, and then you finally
not just that,
got there.
But it's like you could have escaped with your family, and you're the only one that made it across, and your family didn't.
Yeah, there's
right.
That too.
There's that too. So there's a lot in there. So we're gonna get into the bad, the weight of the journey. Now let's talk about the bad, and these aren't angry spirits, but you can feel the exhaustion, the fear, the weight of what it took to survive. One park ranger reported hearing soft crying near the edge of the Detroit River at night, always at the same time, always in the same place. But when they investigate, no one's there. The energy isn't haunting, it's historic grief. It's a residual left by mothers who have to leave their children behind, by people who ran from with nothing but hope. So this is a true encounter, and we got this off of the Parks Canada Oral History Project. We've had visitors say that they feel a woman's hand touch theirs gently while they're looking out across the water. It happens most near the spot where the boats used to land. And it's not scary, it's human, it's spirit saying, I was here, don't forget me.
Wow, that would be very
impactful.
It really would be.
Yeah.
Ooh, now we got to dive into the ugly and those who didn't make it.
God.
The river is beautiful, but for many, it was a final resting place. Some freedom seekers drowned trying to cross. Others were betrayed before they ever got in the boat, and some passed from illness, exposure, or heartbreak shortly after arriving. There's a legend of a woman in a white scarf seen walking the shoreline near King's Navy Yard Park, always near dawn. Locals call her the Watcher. She doesn't speak, she just walks. And here's another true encounter from a local storytelling project. My grandmother said she saw her once. Said she looked like she was waiting for someone who never came. And maybe she was. Maybe she's still there.
That's
Oh yeah, to lose your children or to lose your spouse, your parents, anybody that tried to escape.
you're escaping from something that you've been running and running and running, and then finally to be able to see freedom and feel it, and then still having, even though you've crossed over and your freedom, you're still having to build a life here.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have no idea what it holds. This is a completely different country.
And to be independent now.
Yeah.
Because that's not what you're used to.
No, you're used to
free. You can make your own decisions. You can make your own choices.
Exactly. But now you have to be able to make a living.
Yeah.
And be able to know where you're going and where you're navigating, and still worried about who you left behind. If you left people behind, most of the time they would have.
And probably the fear of, will they come back for me?
Yeah, being found.
Know,
yeah, being found. So, have you ever walked along the water in Amherstburg and felt something? Visited the museum or the church and felt the presence? We want to hear your story. So send it to smalltownhauntings@outlook.com, or you can DM us at our page, Small Town Hauntings. The ancestors are still here, and maybe you felt them too. So I don't know. Have you ever visited the underground?
I haven't.
Railroad?
I started to think about it. No, I've had other field trips, like in school, because I know a lot of times you go during school, but I don't remember going there particularly.
In school, I remember we went there once. We were taken there. We were studying the railroad crossing. We were studying that, and we were studying about the slavery and things like that. And they took us there, and it was so profound because I probably was 9 or whatever at the time. And I remember they took us into one of the houses that I think it's still there, and we were able to go in. And I remember like looking around, and it had like slats. It was still very much the same way it was back then, I think, and had slats. And they said this, and it was like the room wasn't much bigger than what we are here.
Right.
And they said that in there it had like, I don't know, it was a load of people, There was quite a bit of people, and this is where one of the stops that people would. It was a safe house,
right?
So when they would cross, they could go there. But if there was people that would cross over, like soldiers and stuff that were looking, there was a trap door underneath the house.
Right,
they open it and they would hide.
I have heard that before.
He opened up the trap door, and I remember there was in the house. We were a classroom of 30. And we barely all fit, and we were small kids. We barely all fit in there. And then they kind of went, okay, well, see how many people can fit in there. And we could barely stand up, and we were like kids.
And you can imagine being adults.
And this is an adult, and they would fit. They said about as many as they possibly, like probably like 15 or 16 underneath that house, and they would have to be quiet and they'd be able to, and you could see through. Right, and having to be quiet and so that you're not found because you've just crossed over, and having to, and everything would be at night too, so it was dark, so there wasn't electricity in the house, so it was just very scary, and it was one of the things that always stuck with me, seeing that of all of the stuff that these people went through, it was very profound.
To endure just to have basic freedom.
Just to be here, to be able to be basic freedom. They did say, I think at one point, that a lot of people came over and they started a life, and then when kind of like the war subsided or whatever there, some of them did move back to the U.S.
Did they? I know some of them did move more north too.
They did. Ontario, some of them went out more. So some of them did move out farther out, but some did go back, and some of them settled in Detroit. In Chicago, but they didn't go back south or whatever it is, but they did go back over to the U.S. From the story, but it was a very long time ago. I mean, we need to go again, and so if you, by all means, look it up, the Amherstburg Freedom or the Amherstburg Underground Railroad. There is so much information, and if you can get a tour of it, which we're looking at booking one to go back on and look at it, because there's so much there, so much history there,
right?
And it would be something that everybody needs to see.
Oh, for sure,
yeah.
So and until next time, walk gently, speak their names, and remember, some hauntings are holy.
Yeah. So stay curious, stay grounded, and never forget what freedom feels like.